The winter of 1944 hit Nebraska like a fist wrapped in ice. In the small town of Cedar Falls, where everyone knew everyone's name and their business too, a peculiar sound echoed from Old Man Hutchins' barn every single night. Metal grinding against metal, hammers striking steel. The townspeople whispered, shook their heads, and went about their lives. Inside that barn, covered in grease and determination, worked Samuel Hutchins, 42 years old, with hands scarred from factory work and a mind that never stopped turning. Sam had been rejected from military service 3 times. Flat feet, they said. Poor eyesight, they claimed. Too old, they finally admitted. But rejection only sharpened his resolve. Sam's son, Tommy, had shipped out to Europe 6 months ago. 20 years old, fresh-faced, eager to serve. The letters came less frequently now. When they did arrive, Tommy never spoke about the fighting directly. But Sam could read between the lines. The fear, the exhaustion, the way his boy's handwriting had changed, becoming shakier with each letter. 2 weeks ago, Tommy wrote about Panzers, German tanks that rolled through French villages like unstoppable monsters. He described watching 3 Sherman tanks get obliterated in minutes. Good men, burned alive inside metal coffins. Tommy's unit had learned to fear that distinctive rumble of German armor approaching. Sam couldn't sleep after reading that letter. He paced his kitchen until dawn, Sarah watching him with worried eyes. She'd been his wife for 23 years, knew that look in his eyes. When Sam got an idea, nothing could stop him. The idea came to him at sunrise. He'd worked at the Omaha rail yard for 15 years before the factory closed. Knew metal, understood physics, stress points, weight distribution. If the army wouldn't let him fight, maybe he could build something that would. He started sketching. Platform. Mobile, lightweight, capable of supporting a 50 caliber machine gun or even a small anti-tank weapon. But the genius was in the bridge mechanism. 2 extending planks that could deploy across trenches, small rivers, or bombed-out roads. A gun platform that could cross obstacles and set up firing positions in seconds. Sam called it the plank bridge gun platform. Not pretty, but functional. Deadly functional. He liquidated everything. The savings account Sarah thought was for Tommy's college fund. The war bonds. He even sold his father's pocket watch, the one thing he swore he'd never part with. Sarah cried when she found out, but she didn't stop him. She understood. Their boy was over there, and Sam needed to do something. The barn became his factory. He worked 18-hour days. The town's hardware store, owned by Frank Morrison, started asking questions when Sam bought their entire stock of reinforced steel beams. Frank was a veteran of the First World War, missing 2 fingers from his left hand courtesy of German artillery. "You building a tank in there, Sam?" Frank asked one afternoon, half joking. "Something better," Sam replied, his eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep. Word spread. The town council called a meeting. Mayor Pritchard, a bloated man who'd avoided both world wars through mysterious medical exemptions, stood in Sam's barn with 3 council members. "This is unauthorized military equipment construction," Pritchard announced, reading from a prepared statement. "We have orders from the War Department. All weapon development must go through proper channels." Sam stood there, wrench in hand, looking at the half-finished prototype. The platform was taking shape. Beautiful in its simplicity, the extendable plank bridges could deploy in under 10 seconds. The gun mount could rotate 360 degrees. The whole thing could be towed by a standard military jeep. "My son is dying over there while you shuffle papers," Sam said quietly. "That's not the point," Pritchard shot back. "We have procedures, protocols. You could be building something dangerous, unstable. You're not an engineer, Sam. You're a railroad worker." The council voted unanimously. Sam had 72 hours to dismantle everything or face federal prosecution. Building military equipment without authorization was a serious crime, Pritchard reminded him, especially in wartime. Sarah found Sam that night, sitting in the dark barn, staring at his creation. He hadn't touched a tool in hours, just sat there, defeated. "They don't understand," he whispered. "Tommy's out there. Our boy is out there facing those monsters, and I can help. I know I can help." Sarah squeezed his shoulder but said nothing. What was there to say? The law was the law. The government knew best. Sam was just one man with a crazy idea in a barn. He received the official cease and desist order the next morning, printed on official War Department letterhead, signed by someone in Washington who'd never heard a gunshot fired in anger. Sam held the paper, reading it over and over, feeling something break inside his chest. Then the telegram arrived. The telegram came at 3 in the afternoon. Western Union delivery boy, couldn't have been more than 16, handed it to Sarah with trembling hands. Everyone knew what telegrams meant during wartime. Sarah's scream brought Sam running from the barn. She stood on the porch, the yellow paper fluttering in her shaking hands like a dying butterfly. Sam took it from her, his vision blurring as he read. Regret to inform you, Private Thomas Hutch is wounded in action. Stop critical condition. Stop field hospital Normandy. Stop Panzer attack. Stop further information to follow. Stop. Sam read it 3 times. The words wouldn't process correctly. Critical condition. His boy. His Tommy, who used to climb the oak tree in the backyard. Who built model airplanes on the kitchen table. Who kissed his mother goodbye 6 months ago and promised to come home safe. Panzer attack. Those 2 words burned into Sam's brain. The same monsters Tommy had written about. The same killing machines that haunted his letters. And now they'd gotten him. Sarah collapsed into Sam's arms, sobbing. Neighbors gathered on the lawn. Mrs. Patterson from next door holding Sarah's hand. Old Frank Morrison standing silent with his hat pressed against his chest. Everyone offering hollow condolences, prayers, hope. Sam felt nothing but white-hot rage. That evening, Mayor Pritchard had the audacity to visit. Stood in the doorway with his pressed suit and polished shoes, offering sympathies that sounded rehearsed. Mentioned how proud the town was of Tommy's sacrifice. Called him a hero. Get out, Sam said, his voice dead calm. Now, Sam, I know you're upset, but I said get the hell out of my house. Pritchard left, muttering about grief and understanding. Sam walked to the barn, stared at the covered prototype. The cease and desist order was tacked to the wall, official government seal mocking him. He thought about Tommy in some field hospital, probably missing limbs, probably screaming. Thought about all the other boys over there, facing Panzers with inadequate weapons and desperate tactics. Thought about bureaucrats in Washington who'd never heard a shot fired, never watched good men die, never held a telegram that destroyed a family. Sarah found him at midnight. He was uncovering the prototype, oil lamp casting shadows across the metal frame. Sam, what are you doing? The order. To hell with the order, he said. Our boy is dying because men like Pritchard are too scared to break rules. Too comfortable to take risks. They banned this because it's not proper procedure. Not because it won't work. They'll arrest you. Let them. But first, I'm finishing this. He worked through the night. Sarah brought him coffee at dawn, said nothing, just kissed his forehead and went back inside. By noon, the platform was operational. The plank bridges deployed smoothly. The gun mount was solid. It was beautiful. It was deadly. Now he just needed to prove it worked. And he needed to get it to France. Sam knew exactly one person who might help. Captain James Riley, stationed at Camp Ashland, 40 miles east. They'd worked together at the rail yard before the war. Riley had been the foreman, tough but fair, the kind of man who judged ideas by their merit, not their source. Sam loaded the prototype onto his flatbed truck at dawn, covered it with canvas tarps. Sarah packed him sandwiches he wouldn't eat and coffee he wouldn't drink. She kissed him goodbye like she might never see him again. Be careful, she whispered. Too late for careful. The drive took 2 hours. Camp Ashland bustled with activity, young soldiers training for deployment. Sam talked his way past 2 checkpoints, invoking Riley's name. The 3rd guard made a phone call. Riley met him at the vehicle depot. 45 years old, crew cut going gray, 3 rows of ribbons on his chest from the First War. He looked at the covered truck, then at Sam. Heard about Tommy. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Help me. Sam pulled back the tarps. Riley circled the prototype slowly, running his hand along the plank bridge mechanism, testing the gun mount's rotation. 5 minutes of silence. Then he laughed short and sharp. "This is what got you in trouble with Pritchard's committee?" Sam nodded. "Those idiots wouldn't know innovation if it bit them." "This is brilliant, Sam. Completely insane, but brilliant. Will it work?" Riley crouched, examining the stress points where the planks connected. "Only one way to find out. We test it." They spent the afternoon at the camp's proving grounds. Riley requisitioned a Jeep, a .50 caliber Browning, and asked no questions that required official answers. They set up obstacles, trenches, demolished wall sections, created scenarios that mimicked European combat zones. The platform performed flawlessly. The plank bridges deployed in 8 seconds, extended across a 12-foot gap, supported the Jeep's weight without flexing. The gun mount remained stable even during rapid repositioning. Riley fired the Browning through a full belt, the platform absorbing recoil perfectly. If you're watching this and believing that one man's determination can change everything, hit that subscribe button. Because what happens next proves that sometimes the best weapons aren't built in factories. They're built in barns by fathers who refuse to give up. Riley made a decision. He had a transport leaving for the East Coast in 6 hours. Unofficial cargo manifest. Equipment heading to a staging area for European deployment. The paperwork could get lost. Mistakes happen during wartime. "This never happened," Riley said. "I never saw you. This platform doesn't exist." "What about Pritchard? The cease and desist?" "Screw Pritchard. Your boy is over there bleeding. Every kid over there is somebody's son. If this thing can save even one of them, then Washington can court-martial me after we win the war." Sam gripped Riley's hand. "No words adequate." The platform shipped out that evening, labeled as replacement parts for artillery emplacements. Riley included a letter addressed to Lieutenant Colonel Morris Brennan, an old friend commanding an armored division near the German border. The letter was simple: "Test this. It works. Trust me." 3 weeks of silence followed. Sam returned to Cedar Falls, waited for news about Tommy, waited for news about the platform, waited for federal agents to arrest him. Then everything changed at once. The second telegram arrived on a Tuesday. Sam was fixing the barn door when Sarah came running, waving paper above her head. But this time, she was smiling through tears. "Private Hutchins stable stop transferred to recovery facility England stop expected full recovery stop." Sam's knees buckled. Tommy would live. His boy would come home. Sarah held him while he wept for the first time since childhood. All the fear and rage and helplessness pouring out in great shaking sobs. But that wasn't the only news that day. Captain Riley called that evening. "Sam, you need to sit down for this." "What happened?" "Your platform." Brennan's unit encountered a Panzer column outside Bastogne. 14 tanks, rolling through a bottleneck between 2 hills. Standard defense wasn't working. Shermans couldn't get proper positioning. The Panzers were going to break through. Sam gripped the phone, holding his breath. They had your platform mounted on a Jeep. Driver was a kid from Ohio, 21 years old. Name's Patterson. Same last name as your neighbor, funny enough. He volunteered to deploy it across a bombed bridge span, set up a firing position on elevated ground the Panzers couldn't reach. And Riley's voice cracked with emotion. 7 minutes, Sam. Your bridge deployed perfectly. Patterson got a .50 cal and 2 bazooka teams into position where the Panzers had to funnel through. Sitting ducks. They destroyed all 14 tanks in 7 minutes. Not one got through. Brennan estimates your platform saved 200 American lives that day. Sam couldn't speak. The room spun. The War Department is going ballistic trying to figure out where this unauthorized equipment came from. Brennan filed a combat effectiveness report. Called it the most innovative tactical platform he'd seen in 30 years of service. They want to know who built it. What about Pritchard's order? The ban? Riley laughed, harsh and satisfied. Pritchard got a visit from a 2-star general yesterday. Apparently, banning life-saving equipment during wartime is a career-ending decision. They're fast-tracking production of your design. Real engineers are refining it, but the core concept is yours. They're calling it the Hutchins Mobile Fire Platform. The military wanted Sam in Washington. Consultations. Specifications. Mass production discussions. The same bureaucrats who banned his barn project now wanted his expertise. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. But more important than official recognition was the letter that arrived 2 days later. Written in shaky handwriting, addressed to Samuel Hutchins, Cedar Falls, Nebraska. Mr. Hutchins, I'm Private Eddie Patterson. I was the driver who deployed your platform at Bastogne. I don't know if you'll ever read this, but I needed you to know. My best friend died in a Panzer attack 2 months ago. I've seen those monsters tear through good men like they're nothing. When we got your platform, when I saw what it could do, I volunteered immediately. Sir, you saved my life. You saved 200 lives. Whatever they told you about your invention being dangerous or unauthorized, they were wrong. Dead wrong. You're a hero. Thank you. Sam read the letter 10 times. Then he walked to Tommy's empty bedroom and finally let himself believe everything would be okay. Washington was nothing like Sam imagined. Too many suits, too many handshakes, too many men taking credit for ideas they tried to kill. He sat in a Pentagon conference room surrounded by generals and engineers, explaining stress calculations and deployment mechanics to people who'd dismissed him as a railroad worker. The prototype sat in the center of the room, now designated Mark I. Hutchins platform. Engineers had refined it, added improvements, but the core design remained his. The plank bridge system, the rotating gun mount, the lightweight construction that allowed rapid deployment. General Hartwick, a grizzled veteran with a chest full of medals, studied Sam with sharp eyes. Mr. Hutchins, we're authorizing immediate production. 500 units for European deployment. Another 300 for Pacific operations. Your design is saving lives as we speak. Sam nodded, but his mind was elsewhere. On Tommy, recovering in England. On Patterson and those 200 men at Bastogne. On every soldier who might survive because some stubborn father refused to accept no for an answer. What about compensation? One bureaucrat asked, shuffling papers. Patent rights, royalties, that sort of thing. Sam stood up, surprising everyone. I don't want money. I want 2 things. First, every platform gets a plaque with the names of men who died in Panzer attacks before this existed. So soldiers remember why it matters. Second, I want Mayor Pritchard to personally sign off on every production order. The room fell silent. General Hartwick smiled, slow and predatory. Consider it done. Back in Cedar Falls, everything changed. The town that had mocked Sam's barn project now celebrated him. Newspaper reporters camped on his lawn. Life magazine wanted a photo spread. Hollywood called about movie rights. Sam declined everything except one local newspaper interview, because the reporter had a son fighting in Germany. Mayor Pritchard resigned quietly. No scandal, no public disgrace, just a sudden decision to retire and spend time with family. Frank Morrison was elected new mayor in a landslide. His first act was declaring Samuel Hutchins Day, an annual celebration of innovation and determination. But the moment that mattered most came on a cold morning in March. Sam was in the barn, sketching new ideas for mine-clearing equipment, when Sarah screamed his name. He ran outside and saw the car. Army sedan, government plates. His heart stopped. Not another telegram. Not after everything. The back door opened. Tommy stepped out, thinner than Sam remembered, moving carefully, favoring his left side where shrapnel had torn through him. But alive, smiling. Home. They met in the middle of the yard, father and son, holding each other like they could make up for 6 months of fear in one embrace. Sarah joined them, the 3 of them standing together while neighbors gathered and wept and cheered. I heard what you did, Tommy whispered. Dad, they're talking about your platform in every unit over there. You saved so many guys. You saved me. Sam pulled back, looked at his son's face, older now, marked by things no 20-year-old should witness. I just built something in a barn, kiddo. No, Tommy said firmly. You refused to give up. That's everything. That evening, Sam received a telegram from Private Patterson. Brief and simple. Your boy made it home, stop mine, did 2 stop, thank you, stop. 5 years later, the barn still smelled like grease and possibility. Sam stood in the doorway watching Tommy work on the prototype. Not the original, that was in the Smithsonian now, polished and preserved behind glass with a plaque reading, Hutchins Mobile Fire Platform, designed by Samuel Hutchins, Cedar Falls, Nebraska, 1944. Credited with saving over 800 American lives during World War II operations. This was the Mark III version, improved and refined. Tommy had come home from the war and enrolled in engineering school on the GI Bill. Graduated top of his class. Now father and son worked together, designing equipment for the peacetime army. The nightmares had faded, mostly. Some nights Tommy still woke up sweating, hearing Panzer engines in the darkness. But Sarah's cooking and Cedar Falls' quiet streets were better medicine than any hospital could provide. Sarah called them for dinner. Pot roast, Tommy's favorite. Around the table sat Frank Morrison, now serving his third term as mayor, and Eddie Patterson, who'd moved to Cedar Falls after the war and married the widow Henderson's daughter. They ate together once a month, these men connected by metal and fire and survival. I got a letter from the War Department today, Sam said, passing the gravy. They want us to consult on new bridge-laying equipment for the Corps of Engineers. Tommy grinned. Told you that design would work. After dinner, they gathered on the porch. The town had grown, new houses sprouting up, young families moving in. The factory had reopened, producing agricultural equipment now instead of war materials. Cedar Falls was healing, like the whole country, slowly remembering how to live without fear. Patterson pulled out a photograph, worn at the edges from handling. Showed it around. His 2-year-old daughter, sitting in a toy Jeep, grinning at the camera. She exists because of you, Mr. Hutchins. Never forget that. My wife, my daughter, my whole future. You built that in your barn. Sam looked at the photo, then at Tommy laughing with Frank, then at Sarah watching them all with contentment in her eyes. He thought about the cease and desist order, still framed on his workshop wall. A reminder that sometimes the right thing isn't the legal thing, and innovation doesn't wait for permission. The Hutchins platform had been used in 17 major engagements. Modified versions were still in service. Other countries had copied the design. Sam had received medals, commendations, even a handshake from President Truman. But this, sitting on his porch with his son home safe, with men alive because he refused to quit, this was the real victory. Tommy raised his beer bottle. To stubborn fathers who build impossible things. They all drank to that.